Pedja is the most amazing human I've met.
Oh, there's no one like Pedja. King of the piano.
Oh, he's mother hen. He's brilliant.
Inspiring.
Know that.
Oh,
The way that he structures programming, that is just a continuous flow. Keeps audiences engaged.
A wonderful mother.
No, like what I'm interested in you is that how and when or why did you get started just thinking this way? Like a concert in a new, concert for the 21st century, and how that started for you. I mean, you're a pianist, and you could just play Beethoven sonatas or Haydn sonatas and just straightforward. And when that kind of started.
Two different distinct events that made me think in a slightly different direction. One was a mentor of mine at Juilliard named Albert Fuller, who was a harpsichord player, and he had a concert series in his apartment. He had a beautiful duplex apartment in New York City. Actually, apartments that were originally built for visual artists, so they had a double height living room where people could paint, and then bedrooms upstairs. And he had a concert series through a foundation that he set up called Helicon Foundation, and the concerts were on Sunday at 5 o'clock. And they were regular length concerts with intermission. He served iced tea and champagne and cheese sticks when you arrived. There was the people drank during the concert, but no food. He was one of those people who was very involved in performance practice from the past, but was very present in the time. He loved Madonna, he loved Apple computers that had just basically started. So he was one of those people who had no problem being today and yet being so fascinated by the past. So he had a way of speaking about the music that was so inclusive and so accepting of everybody's level of knowledge, and yet so informative, but connecting to things that we all understood. That he had this following. The foundation was set up that it was a private foundation where people had paid an annual membership. And there was an incredible array of people who were doctors and lawyers and marketing people. And so I loved the atmosphere. I played there for many, many years every year. And then that was starting like in the late 80s or early 90s. And then in 95, I did my first collaboration with dance. And being in a theater environment was incredibly inspirational to me. How in theater, like the rehearsals with lighting and the movement, how first of all, everything was looked at. It wasn't just like you practice and then you get to a piano however you get to the piano, you bow however you bow, and then the only thing that matters is how you play, which is kind of what we were taught. And so I found this care for every detail, like when do you appear? Do you appear in the dark? And do you just find yourself at the piano? And then of course lighting, I was fascinated by lighting, how it changes the atmosphere. So, and then I toured with Mikhail Baryshnikov and Vital Dance Project, and then Mikhail Baryshnikov decided to build this art center in New York, and I was sort of involved in it from the beginning. And then when we opened, he said to me, well, we should do some concerts here. And so I had this unique chance to design my perfect concert. So I kind of married these two experiences. I created a salon. So it was in a flat rehearsal studio, very modern looking with dance floor and kind of exposed concrete and 2 walls of windows, but like 18-foot ceiling, so very high. We had lighting equipment because it's a theatrical space. And we would get in small round tables and have candles and beautiful lighting, and we did 1 hour long concerts with no intermission because I felt like we are in Midtown Manhattan where these people come out of work and I really want their attention. And so I think first year we'd start at 7, people would come at 6:30, get a glass of wine or water, sit at these tables, it was free. First year actually we also had whole food, but that became very complicated. And I realized, and we had theatrical lighting. So I would give the program to we would hire a lighting designer for every concert, and we would say, what would you do? And different lighting designers did different things, but there was always, the room had a look, so when you came in, there was a look of the room, which was always different. And we also changed slightly the position of the musicians, so it was slightly creative that way as well. And both, it's you can't really measure things by success, but the interest from the audience was kind of stunning. I mean, there would be lines of people to get in. But
when
also,
was this?
This was starting 15 years ago. And But I also realized how satisfying it was to me, because one thing I've never stopped being is a concert goer. I love to go to concerts as an audience member. I love music, I love the excitement of it. And so I realized how satisfying it was for me. I work a long day, I hear an hour of music, I go out for dinner, and I'm still home at 10 o'clock.
Right.
And so, and then around the same time, I started coming to BAM Center as a visiting faculty for these self-directed residencies where people would just be here for 6 or 9 weeks, and they would just do their projects. But then the administration of BAM Center asked me to, well, if I was interested in designing a residence. And so I immediately thought of this, like, what is a concert? Like how, because we get so much, you know, music is dying, this and that. And the funding, the critics, there's no more reviews, there's no more classical musical television, the radio stations. But somehow I rarely hear anybody asking, what can we do to make us more relevant? I always hear kind of blame to the other side.
Right.
And so that got me really thinking, well, what is the essence of the concert? For me, the essence of the concert is music, performer, and an audience.
Right.
And everything else can be different. So when it is, where, how long is it, what's in the program, what are you wearing, is it formal, is it informal? I think both have a place. Are you speaking, are you not speaking, are you walking off stage? There are all these conventions that really when you remove yourself, like why in a piano recital or string quartet concert, we go out and bow. First of all, we're the only performing artists who get an applause before we do anything. Which is very interesting when you think about it. Other places, the curtain goes up and the show starts.
Right, interesting.
So already there, so we make this entrance, often clumsy. We bow, we start playing. We play a 10-minute piece. We get up and we bow and we walk off stage. But why? Maybe we want to make a chapter out of it, and that's great.
Right.
But often it's without any artistic or creative thinking. Why exactly? Like when you're in a theater, people don't walk off stage unless it's in the script. You don't leave your paying audience sitting there watching live. So all of those conventions I started them, and I'm really not interested in like trashing everything. I think there are many things that you come full circle and say, okay, that's actually necessary.
Right.
But I think it is important to ask, does that add anything? Or is it just the sort of thing we do?
Do you face a lot of obstacles thinking this way, or that's why you become a presenter as well, so you can create your own thing?
Well, it's interesting. It is true when you're hired to play. When I'm hired to play somewhere, you are not in charge of the event, but you are in charge of many things. I don't have to walk off stage. Nobody's demanding you walk off stage. Like I now, when I play recitals, I never leave the stage.
Right.
I just stay there. I speak a lot, but I don't like it to be predictable, so that I always speak. I'll sometimes connect 2 or 3 pieces together and then speak, but I don't leave the stage.
I see.
I just don't need. Why should I leave the stage?
Right.
So things like yes, I can change the lighting if they don't have lighting, or if it would cost more money. But I can do certain things. And actually, like I have a recital coming up with 2 pianos, because one will be prepared for John Cage and the other one will not. And there's some readings I want to do, and I'm sort of wondering whether I should turn the pianos so that the keyboard is facing back and that I'm facing the audience, so I can speak without getting up and turning.
I see.
So again, that's not common, but perhaps nobody would object to that. Perhaps maybe some presenters would. So there are things that you can ask at the very least.
Once you become a presenter yourself as well as pianist, did it change who you are as a pianist in some ways, the way you're thinking?
Not in the actual playing, not really. But in everything around it, yes. How I respond to presenters. Some presenters will laugh and say, "Oh, I can tell you're also a presenter because you responded to the email immediately." But no, I mean, they certainly are, 2 sides of my personality. But I can say that it's changed how I pitch something.
I see.
It's changed how I approach presenters. Let's say if I'm hired to write a blurb about what I'm playing, Yes, I mean I have an awareness because I have to deal with that, and I'm writing it for somebody else.
Right.
So I have an opinion of what might be interesting to a ticket buyer. But the playing, no.
Right.
I can't
As
play
a
piano.
pianist, I always curious that, I never actually left playing piano ever yet. I didn't have to take a long break or a month break or even not playing it. So in your whole career, have you ever had that time you don't play piano, or do you have that anxiety like all pianists do?
It's funny you should ask. I just now in November, December, for the first time in my life, took 2 months off. Ever. Up to that point, I would take a week off.
Right.
And it was interesting. It kind of grew in me. I really had to take a break. Because I felt like it happened. I mean, I started noticing a year ago that there was a break in my calendar, and so I thought, well, and then there were a few engagements that came that said, would you like April or November? And I was like, well, I'll take April. And all of a sudden there was a clearance of 2 months, and so I thought, I'm just not going to play. And then in January I had sort of a soft, I had a benefit to play in mid-January, so it wasn't immediately like. And it was more, well, it sounds so predictable, but it was more valuable than I thought it would be.
Was it right?
So first month, I was still going like a headless chicken. I was like, la 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 la. I wasn't playing, but I wasn't really feeling the benefits of it. And then in the second month, all of a sudden I thought, maybe I'll never play again. Because I started to realize how tired I was. Because I should also say what was a bit of a red kind of alarm before that. I was hired to play a recital in New York, and I had to submit a program. And because I've played now, well, every year, and last season I played 2 different recitals, and this season I'm also playing 2 different recitals. I sort of ran out of my like ready-made programs, and I had to. And this was a specific task in a way. Well, actually, this season I'll play 3 recitals in New York, and all of a sudden I was blank. I couldn't think of anything I wanted to play, and I thought, okay, because I'm actually very curious about music, and I really love music.
Right.
And all of a sudden I thought, okay, this is a problem. And so it was actually it was after this break that I was able to program this, because I was really, at one point I just thought maybe I should say no, because I was completely blank.
Right.
So, and it was actually really wonderful. And it's interesting physically.
Was it okay?
It was nothing.
Was it okay?
It's so interesting how we're so obsessed about.
I know. I mean, pianists are more than anyone else. Any musicians were very, obsessed with this.
I didn't feel any like that I had to like get back.
No, but you never did it in your life until so.
But I expected it would have taken me a little more to kind of get in shape and.
Was it okay?
Yeah, it was interesting.
I mean.
So I highly recommend it. Maybe not a bit. You were younger.
No, what do you think about pianists all have to memorize the piece? And I actually value memorizing, makes me free to express things. But then we are also in the point that that kind of hinder us to performing more, or or going on the stage. Like so what do you thought about that?
It is a mixed feeling. I do agree that playing from memory, there's something very freeing, and there's something absolutely paralyzing.
Right.
Because it's the only fear I have.
I know.
could care less if I'm missing out. And I think the times have changed so much that, for better or for worse, between our gadgets and emails and everything, it's very hard to get your mind to just do that.
Right.
On the flip side, I'm a huge believer that concert is theater, and I think the sort of music desk and the page turner, it looks like having a nurse on stage.
Right.
So, it just doesn't look nice. But I first, in some like contemporary music or something, I first started doing a lot of like Xeroxing and getting rid of the desk and putting the music inside the piano and doing some creative turning.
I thought about that.
But then, when the large iPad appeared, I play everything now from iPad.
Oh.
Even though, interestingly, so few people ever notice it because it's inside the piano.
Right.
But to me, that has given me like batteries of security.
Oh.
So still, like a few days ago when I played at CP Box, I played from memory. I mean, I will sometimes play, but honestly, it has changed the whole game.
When did that start?
It's been 3 years or so. No, I got the iPad, but I still played. I would say fully, well, maybe about 2 years, and it's been great. I highly recommend.
I know, because that's the one thought, like that I know this piece inside out.
Yeah,
but
it's
there's
nothing to do
one
with that.
fear
Yeah.
that it's almost like hinder us
Yeah.
to express sometimes.
It's horrible. The blank is just horrible.
Yeah,
And
I
we've
know.
all seen it. We've all done it.
Right.
And it's just ugly. And I don't want to live that.
Oh, that's
Because
kind
I
of
feel like,
liberating.
we are in the business of joy.
Right.
We are. What we play may have different feelings and emotions, but I'm not here to spread my anxieties. Who wants to pay for that?
Right, right.
And so, and I certainly don't want to feel them any more than I have to. So
right.
whatever I can eliminate, and to me that's just a mechanical thing. But it did matter before that because of the page turning and all that. I just think it doesn't look good.
Right.
But this, heaven.
Well, it's kind of lightening up a little
Yeah,
bit. Yeah,
I
yeah,
love it. I
yeah.
love
You're one of the funniest people I met.
No, completely serious.
So, is this kind of sense of humor is important to you, or you grew up with that kind of sense of humor, or something that you value, or are you aware of it, or or not, or just
Well,
it's
I
you?
mean, I wouldn't be the first one to say that humor is a mask and is a self-defense mechanism. But I love people, as you know, I think. And I think laughing is a fun, as long as it's not laughing at people.
Right,
I mean,
right.
That's not funny to me. Worth laughing at myself, that's another thing. But I think, I mean, let's say the three options, laughing, being serious, or crying, well,
Right.
is there really competition? So of course there are moments when I'm serious and when you have to
Right.
convey something, but I think, why not, I don't know, it's funny when I was always just playing the piano, but then I have now 4 jobs basically. I play the piano, I'm artistic administrator at Berkshire Art Center, I'm artistic advisor at the TripAdvisor Art Center in Montana, and I'm one of the artistic directors at BAM. So I do a lot of emailing.
Right, I see.
That still doesn't prevent me to crack a joke if there is an opportunity, even for people I don't know well. It's like, well, you're sitting at some desk all day long. I mean,
Right,
and it's
right.
amazing how many people commented that.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, and I'll say,
they
I
love
look
it.
forward to your emails. They'll do something silly. I mean, not all the time, obviously. Sometimes you just answer a question, but if something is funny, it's like, why wouldn't you laugh? Why wouldn't you? I mean, we have so many issues, personal and environment and politics and world and economy and this and that. So why not?
When when you first came to the United States, when was it?
1984.
1984.
1884. No, 1984.
So if you could go back time then, is there any advice you want to give to yourself that you wish you known then?
Yeah. I think I give the same advice to everybody. And I did change, but at that time I had preconceived conceptions of what I wanted myself to be. So my advice is to walk through any door that opens. In other words, and I also am starting to believe more and more that things happen for a reason.
Right.
So if somebody offers you a certain kind of work, there's probably a reason why they're offering that work and not this work or that work.
I see.
So, but sometimes we say, well, I don't want to do that. That's not what I want to do.
Right.
And sometimes it's not. Sometimes when you're young, people offer you whatever work, and sometimes you take it because you need to make a living. But I think I did have some conceptions of how I saw myself, and thankfully, I didn't have the resources. In other words, I had to say yes, 'cause making a living, and that was so beneficial. Because A, I learned so much, and then B, I got into situations that opened this door and that door and got me here and got me thinking about something and made me a better artist. So that is. But I have to say I didn't detour a lot. In other words, I didn't waste 20 years before I realized that.
Right.
I realized it immediately because I had to make a living.
Right.
But
Right.
I really am a believer that doors work in 2 ways, and you can always walk out. You can always say, I tried it, this is not for me, but you should try it.
Right.
Whatever it is. I played Christmas gigs on organs. Plus you can get such funny stories.
Right. It's really hard to make living as a pianist. it's back then or now, what are your advice to, budding, young artists who just start their career and they just cannot make a living, and how can they keep going without making money?
But I think, it is very difficult. There's no doubt about it. First thing, you take whatever work comes your way. If no work comes your way, that's also some sort of message. I think we also have to be realistic, and we can, just think, oh, Berlin Philharmonic will call. They will not, and we can have really happy and productive lives. I also think there are many, many ways one can be involved in music.
Right.
Like, I look at marketing papers of like big organizations. I think I wish there were more people who really knew, not just of any kinds of organizations. I think there are many developments, like who can sparkle that interest in a donor better than somebody who's in it.
Right.
So I think you could still play, and I think many of us do, and be involved in many aspects of what we do. Audience development, immensely important.
Right.
Who are these people who are going to come to our concerts?
Right.
How do we get to them? How do we access them? How do we have them come back? Now, there is not much structure for what I'm saying now, but I think we need to make that structure, because the structure is immensely important. So, and that's to me it's all a creative challenge. But just again, this is back to like your preconceived conception of what you are doing. I'm just a solo pianist playing in a concert hall. That's a narrow line, and people succeed, but what percentage? Probably very small.
I see.
But if you open the windows and say, I'm a pianist who's willing to play the gallery, or a pop-up concert somewhere, a private concert or whatever, I'm willing to play chamber music. Not only I'm willing, I'm interested. I want to play with a singer. I want to play with a dance company. More markets open.
Right.
And you actually really learn. You learn so much. So, but even with all of that, it's not easy. There's so many more of us than any job opportunities.
Right.
But I really do think that there are other jobs in the arts that are so valuable and really satisfying. Like when I'm presenter, I never think like, oh, I wish I was there.
Yeah.
I feel like a host of an amazing party.
Right.
It gives such joy.
Right. Yeah. I also always wonder if I meet another pianist I wanted to ask, because I don't practice scales. I don't have that kind of routine to start my practice, like doing this warm-up. Do you have any routine in your practice?
I change it up. I just out of a fairly lengthy period of scales. I felt kind of like grounding, and physically it felt good also, I have to say.
You do?
I did, but now it's been a few months that I haven't.
Oh. But whole your life you did?
No.
Oh.
On and off. For a while I did Brahms exercises. I kind of vary till I get bored of something. But and I don't know if this had to do with the fact that I have these different lives. So I needed kind of a moment to, because it's very hard. I find it, and it's almost the most difficult thing for me now, is not to always think of another job while I'm doing this job.
I see.
So when I play, I think,
I
haven't emailed you. And when I'm emailing you, I think I have to practice. And so you get into this like kind of very unsatisfying place where you feel like you're always failing at something. So I have to say, okay, Jeeyoon's going to be tomorrow. She's going to be still here. I can answer tomorrow, and everything's going to be fine. So, but it's not easy. Because it's also partially how do you organize not to forget. It's almost easier to answer immediately. So there's that. So there's just logistics. But I think, I don't know, I do like scales. I will say I do, because so much of what we do in literature has scales. So kind of halfway there.
Right. Do you have any routine in your practice, like you always do in your practice, like some practice tips that you do? Slow.
Slow. I'm a huge believer in slow practice.
I
find even when you're under pressure to learn something quickly, if you skip the slow, you're always hiccuping.
Right.
I find that comfort, and I don't know if it's a muscle memory or a brain memory, when you have that comfort that you had time to get everywhere, that somehow it translates when you speed it up. And I don't know if it's just my thing, but I know if I try to skip that stage, that piece has always suffered. It's very interesting. For me at least.
Yeah.
or I have to kind of do remedial work. Right?
Yeah.
So like even if it's something to be learned in a week, I'll start like as if I have a year.
Yeah. What is your next in your agenda as a last question? Like, what do you do as a pianist or as a presenter?
As a kind of big picture, or like or immediate things that are actually on the horizon.
Both.
Well, my greatest thing on my agenda is to wake up tomorrow. I would love to wake up tomorrow.
On time.
No, at any time. Well, of the immediate things that are happening, I am recording I'm calling it Bach Family album, though it will not exist as a physical product. But I became very, very interested in the music of particularly two sons of Johann Sebastian Bach, Wilhelm Friedmann and Carl Philipp Emanuel Bach. And I've been doing their works in various other programs, and so I thought it'd be fun to do kind of a recording project of. And the only work I'm recording of Johann Sebastian Bach, who is the more famous one, is actually a work that some people dispute whether it's actually his or not. It's a very unknown work called Sarabanda con Partita. It's a set of variations on the saraband. And I don't think that there is any recording. So I thought, well, it'd be kind of interesting to record that. But I have to say, the Wilhelm Friedmann, I'm doing only one fantasy of his, which is wild. It's like 13 minutes of maybe 8 or 9 different sections that are completely, it's almost like a narrative where you just go, and then Carl Philipp, who's really, really interesting, kind of bridge to Mozart and Haydn, but still very particular to himself. You can't say he's one or the other. So I've been very, very entangled in that.
On the forte piano or
on modern piano.
Just modern piano.
And it's been incredibly satisfying to kind of discover new turf. But my presenting side, our Tip and Rice season in Montana was just announced today, so it's very exciting, and we're already starting looking at 2021. But at Bereshkova Center, I have this program coming in March that I'm very excited about. It's completely different from what I do. It's an early music group from Cuba that plays music, vocal and instrumental music, from colonial times when the Spaniards came to Central America. And they brought priests, and the priests brought musicians, and the musicians immediately hooked up with folk musicians. So there's this weird blend of religious music with drums and kind of party. And so I really want this group to do a concert for New York school children, because we have so many children of Hispanic background. And I thought it would be such an interesting thing to shed light to their past, the past of their, And so it's not easy to organize a school concert, to get the students, to get them there, but I've spent a lot of time, more time than many things that I'm doing, and it still don't have really, I have a lot of interest, but it would give me, if it happens, and I hope it happens, it would give me great pleasure to share something on a very high quality, something that has a real personal connection with a story to tell, something that's not heard, it's not a music one. I knew. I heard one program of a similar kind years ago. So that gives me great pleasure.
Looking forward to
Yeah.
hear more about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay!
That was so sweet of you. Now I've raised the halter.
Pedja is so clever. So funny and quirky. And I like what he said, this phrase, it's so nice to be together. So, Pedja, it's so nice to be together.